If you want to go back into the basic history of sewage treatment, it started around 150 years ago. Sewage used to be just released into Thames River without any treatment.
There's some difference between general algae and diatom algae.
Around 1,700 million years ago, green algae was. 200 million years ago, diatom algae was.
So, welcome everyone, and we have a very special guest today, Mr. Bhaskar Venkataji. He is director of Kardagari Consultants Private Limited, which is a environmentally focused company which helps to treat waste water, and they clean lakes, rivers, and also they apply their technology, which is nanotechnology and diatom based. I know it's a new word for you all guys, so we are going to break this very interesting technology in easy language. So basically, Bhaskar ji is an environmental technologist who wants to treat our wastewater and clean our surface waters. And yes, so Bhaskar ji, stage is yours. Please kindly let us know about. Namaste, sir. Please kindly let us know about this interesting technology, and also we would like to hear about your journey, how you have been doing all this, and yes, please, the stage is yours.
Yeah, most people would be aware that sewage is generated every day, and
Yes.
it has to be treated or somehow dealt with. And you would have even learnt in school in history textbooks that Mohenjo-daro had a good water system.
Yes.
They were drawing water from the Sindhu River, and then using it in the city, and then there's a drainage going from the top of Mohenjo-daro back into Indus River. So that is a basic drainage system that developed maybe 5,000 years ago or 4,500 years ago. So starting with that, we have more modern systems where population is much more. Mohenjo-daro population was maximum, I think, 50,000. So nowadays, 50,000 is a large village or a small town. Bigger cities have about 2 crore people. So when 2 crore people are living in a small area and consuming a huge amount of water and generating a large amount of sewage, the sewage disposal, sewage treatment, and keeping the lakes and rivers clean becomes a major challenge. And if we want to go back into the basic history of sewage treatment, it started around 150 years ago in London, when sewage used to be just released into Thames River without any treatment. And in 1858, river started stinking. So then government of United Kingdom said something has to be done about this. And they started a scientific study of what is sewage, what are the parameters, what should be tested, how should it be dealt with, and all that. That was the starting point. And they came up with this idea that sewage has got the sludge. So that is causing bacteria to grow. And it's got oxygen demand, that is known as chemical oxygen demand, COD. So that has been measured and reduced. So these are the basic 2 parameters, the sludge and oxygen demand. So they came up with the solution of building sewage treatment plants in which aerators were used to supply, to mix air into the water, so that the oxygen in the air dissolves into water, into the sewage, and satisfies the oxygen demand. And under aerobic conditions, the anaerobic bacteria don't grow. So typically, all the harmful bacteria are anaerobic bacteria. So this is oxygenating the sewage was the solution. So this has been, even today, most of the STPs in the world follow the same system of aerobic process. There's also anaerobic process plants like like simple septic tank, in which the sludge just settles and the water just flows out. And periodically, sludge may have to be pumped out with using a septic tank cleaning machine. So where we come into this is that we are proposing that the oxygen required to treat sewage should be supplied using microalgae. Plants use photosynthesis to consume carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and phosphorus and produce oxygen. Similarly, in water, there are microalgae, microscopic algae that also do the same thing. They have chlorophyll. They consume sunlight or light, and nitrogen and phosphorus, and produce oxygen and carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. So this oxygen will satisfy the chemical oxygen demand and biochemical oxygen demand. Now the challenge is to identify the best type of algae to grow. So there are many types of algae, and they grow under different conditions. Some grow only in fresh water, some grow only in salt water, and so on. So sewage is always fresh water. So we have identified that diatom algae are the best type of algae for various reasons.
Just one question here, small. So why it is called as a diatom algae and not just algae? Is there some difference between general algae and diatom algae?
Yeah, it's just a name for the diatom is a name for one type of one group of algae. So among diatoms, again, there are thousands of species, perhaps even up to 1 lakh species. So the first microalgae that evolved was cyanobacteria or blue-green algae. So this lakes you often seen become green in color. That is generally because of the blue-green algae. There is another type of algae called the green algae or chlorophyceae. These are green. These are also green in color. And cyanobacteria are a type of bacteria which chlorophyll in it. So they are prokaryotes. So they were the first photosynthetic organism to evolve, a photoautotroph to evolve, which have the capability to perform photosynthesis. But after cyanobacteria evolved, there was not much of evolution. Multicellular organism did not evolve. So they were the only photosynthetic organism, and bacteria they just survived together. Then after about, they evolved probably around 3,000 million years ago.
Okay.
Around 1,700 million years ago, green algae evolved. So green algae are the first eukaryotes.
Okay.
So the cells with nucleus in it. So this enabled multicellular organisms. After green algae evolved, zooplankton started evolving. The zooplankton are multicellular, and they feed on green algae.
Okay.
That's how the biodiversity started.
Mhm.
So more and more organisms started evolving. Then from green algae, the terrestrial plants evolved. Like first the grasses, then the larger plants, they evolved. Then after that, there are some more other types of algae such as dinoflagellates, coccolithophores. Then around 200 million years ago, diatom algae evolved. So diatom means it got two halves. Not atoms, but two halves actually. It's got a silica shell, which are two identical halves. So it looks like a sort of a box with base and the lid. So they're called diatoms. Because I think first algae, the diatoms which are identified from the oceans. So they are centric diatoms, which are round in shape. They're like a tiffin box or a pill box. So they're called diatoms. The unique feature of diatoms is that they have got a silica shell. All the other types of algae have got a cellulose cell wall. Like we have a skin. So they have a cell wall made up of carbon, cells made of carbon.
Okay.
That is fundamentally different. Like cyanobacteria, green algae, dinoflagellates all have a cellulose cell wall. But diatoms got a silica shell. That silica shell is what sets them apart.
Okay.
There are it makes them superior to other algae for various reasons. So the silica shell is is transparent, so the light passes through it more easily. So they grow even when there is less light. Like
So their growth
other
rate
algae-
is better. So I think
Exactly.
the algae growth rate is actually a caveat in this technology. So does diatom solve that? So they have a better growth rate.
they have better growth rate. They can grow in lesser light. Like on a cloudy day, they will grow.
Okay.
So then cyanobacteria can't grow on a cloudy day.
Yes.
So what
yes,
happens is
correct.
typically we have heard of seen news of large number of fish dying off in lakes and rivers. So this happens when the oxygen level drops. So typically it happens when in summer there is a good bright sunlight for many days, 1 or 2 months. So algae will grow very well. Then suddenly when the monsoon starts or there's a sudden cloudy day, this algae, because of reduction in sunlight, algae crashes. Cyanobacteria crashes. And then they start decomposing. So that decomposition results in a drop in oxygen level. And that causes the fish to die for lack of oxygen.
Okay.
In the case of diatoms, even on a cloudy day, the photosynthesis continues. So typically, fish will not, drop in oxygen level will not take place and fish will not die.
So
that's one of
diatoms
the-
is a tiny bit question here. So diatoms is a kind of a living organism which is desirable, which you want.
Yeah.
It should actually
Yeah.
live in the lake. So now, say for example, now here we have a lot of lakes which you can see that they are dead completely. There is no oxygen in that, and the fishes cannot live in that. So what I can do with diatom? I mean, how diatom can actually help me to rejuvenate that lake?
Right.
Can you please help us understand?
Yeah. So the next step, I mean, the next point that is to be understood is that diatom algae are the best food for zooplankton. So even though zooplankton evolved long before diatoms evolved, today you find that most of the zooplankton and fish are dependent on diatoms for their food. But diatoms are easy to consume and digest. The cellulose cell wall of the other algae can't be easily digested by a small zooplankton called rotifers and copepods. So only some of the larger zooplankton and smaller fish can consume and digest them. But in the case of diatoms, even the tiniest zooplankton can feed on them. So zooplankton is animal form of plankton. So algae are called phytoplankton. This plankton which use photosynthesis. Phyto standing for light. So for phytoplankton are the food for zooplankton. Among the phytoplankton, diatom algae are the best food for zooplankton and the smaller fish. The small fish are typically herbivores, and then small fish are consumed by the larger fish, which are omnivores or carnivores. So the diatom goes up the food chain. So when blue-green algae grows, you might have seen the lakes are turning green with algal blooms. So the basic question that you need to ask, which unfortunately people are not asking, why is this algae not being consumed by fish? Since typically when algae grows, it should be consumed. If algae is food for fish, so algae should have been consumed by fish. There should be a bloom of fish, not a bloom of algae. Since the fish bloom, why is then algal bloom? It means the food chain in the water is stopping when this algae is growing. Okay, if this algae is not blue-green algae is not the food for fish, then what are the fish consuming? There will be some other algae that is a normal food for fish. So what is that algae? So this is diatom algae. So this kind of critical thinking or counterintuitive thinking is not being applied by limnologists and aquaculture specialists. So that is one of the reasons diatoms are not getting the publicity they deserve. I think there is one American scientist who has very categorically stated all fish is diatom, Dr. Bostwick Ketchum. But unfortunately, this has not been recognized by most people. That now today diatoms account for about 50% of the photosynthesis in water, lakes and oceans, both freshwater and seawater. So why is it 50%? Because they are the best food for fish. And that itself is a proof that the best food for fish. So this sort of acceptance of the diatoms are the best food, diatoms are good algae and other algae are bad algae, is not being accepted in the, not yet found its way into the textbooks. So everybody knows that diatoms are good. All the fishery science experts, many of the limnologists know, but it's not being specifically being promoted as a possible solution. So diatoms have been studied since late 19th century, 1875 or so. So when microscopes were first invented, so they were to find a way of testing the lens. So they would collect diatoms, put them under the microscope, and if you could clearly see the diatom under the microscope, so that means the lens was accurate and been correctly polished, and that would be certified and shipped off. So since then, papers have been published from, I found the oldest paper on diatoms on 1917. It's titled The Economic Importance of Diatoms. That the correct pronunciation is diatom, not diatom, but generally we call it diatom. So since then, people have understood that diatoms are very important for the in the overall scheme of things, but it is not being really picked up by people working on algae. So one reason is that diatoms are considered difficult to grow in the lab conditions because they need more input. They're the last group of algae to evolve. They're the most complex. In fact, they're as complex as terrestrial plants, like rice or wheat, other plants. So they are more complex. They're considered difficult to grow. Cyanobacteria and green algae grow much easier. So people have generally been concerned about how to grow diatoms. because they need 10 micronutrients.
Okay.
So, but diatoms are grown in the shrimp hatcheries. See, when any fish, shrimp or any fish, the eggs hatch. The tiny post-larval shrimp come out. They are about 1 millimeter in size. So they are like zooplankton. So they can only feed on diatoms. They cannot feed on green algae or other algae. So if diatoms are available, the survival rate of the newly hatched fish and the shrimp will be more. If diatoms are not available, the survival rate is very low. So in all the shrimp hatcheries, they grow them. They've been growing for the last 50 or 60 years. In a small quantity of water, 1 liter of water, 10 liters, maybe up to 100 liters. So in such small quantity, you can provide all the inputs. You can stir the water. You can even provide excess amount of inputs required.
So basically,
And,
scale up of diatoms is the constraint right now. So
So
though
when you
diatoms are good, but it cannot be grown into that large quantity. Maybe because they are complicated, as you said, that their structure is complex and they may be outgrown by the other competing species like cyanobacteria and other algae, and eventually their population will be driven out. That is the basic problem which is happening.
Right. So when so we want to grow diatoms in the aquaculture ponds to be 1 acre plus. So about 1 acre, 1 meter deep is 4 million liters of water. 1 hectare, 1 meter deep is 10 million liters of water. So the challenge is to grow diatoms in such a large quantity of water consistently. So it's not that you grow for 1 week and then they die off, then there's a gap again, you start growing. So they have to consistently be there in the water throughout the fish growing season, which may be 4 months, 6 months, even 1 year. So this boom and bust should not be there. So growing the algae consistently is a challenge. So that is what we have that was overcome by this using nanotechnology. Nanosilica was used to deliver the 10 micronutrients required by diatoms, where the micronutrients are absorbed onto nanosilica. And when this product is put into the water, the nanosilica keeps the micronutrients, many of these are metals, stable in the water. And the nanosilica disperses in the water. And since diatoms need silica, they consume the nanosilica product, and the other algae like cyanobacteria, green algae will not consume it. So you are able to deliver the 10 micronutrients specifically to diatoms in large volume of water.
So nanosilica is the food for this diatom to make them grow.
Nanosilica is used in this product to deliver the micronutrients to the diatoms. It's a delivery mechanism.
So micronutrients include what kind? I mean, is it NPK or is it something different?
NPK are called macronutrients.
Okay, they are macronutrients.
Because algae and plants require a large quantity of these.
Okay.
Almost 8 to 10% of the weight of a dry weight of algae is nitrogen. 1% is phosphorus.
Yes.
But the micronutrients are trace metals, are iron, zinc, manganese, molybdenum, boron.
Okay.
Small amount of copper is required.
Okay.
So these are required in very, very small quantities.
Small quantities. So, this is the food for diatom to let them grow.
Other algae also require this. Green algae also require micronutrients, but diatom's requirement is more.
Okay.
The micronutrient requirement is much more. So their metabolism is more complex than the metabolism of other algae.
Yes.
So one iron atom is estimated to help capture 1 lakh carbon atoms, 100,000 carbon atoms. So this is there is a theory called the iron fertilization theory, ocean iron fertilization theory. That many parts of the ocean have got huge amount of nitrogen and phosphorus and silica, but they are deficient in iron. Like you said, many people are anemic. They have iron deficiency because iron solubility of iron or other metals in water is a problem. So even in lakes and oceans, soluble iron is not available, and no living organism, whether algae or plants or other animals, cannot consume anything that does not dissolve in water. The iron has to dissolve in water.
Okay.
So because of lack of solubility, many locations in the ocean are deficient in iron. So dosing iron in those areas what are called high nutrient, low chlorophyll areas, will boost photosynthesis, and this will boost carbon sequestration. So the algae will sink to the ocean bed. Ocean can be 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers more depth. So they sink to the bottom and carbon is sequestered there. It's called the ocean ion fertilization. This is a possible solution.
Yes, yes, yes.
To,
So what kind of applications we can think of? Say, as I said, that if I have a lake near me which is very much corrupted, so please explain. I mean, try to walk us through the steps in how we can use diatoms. Maybe using your product. If you have some case study to share, that you had some lake which was dead and then you applied this technology. You did these steps 1, 2, 3, and the lake was rejuvenated. I think that will be really interesting to hear it from you.
yeah, we had new algae has been used. The product's name is New Algae. It's nutrients for algae. It was invented by Mr. Sampath Kumar in Bangalore, manufactured in Bangalore by from New Algae Nanobiotech. Sampath Kumar passed away last month. He did research for about 10 years from 1994 to 2004. So it's been in production since 2005. So this is a liquid in 1 liter, half liter bottles, small bottles. And you just need to dose it into the water to be treated, sewage or polluted lake. So the normal dose is about 1 liter in 1 hectare of lake once a week. Very small dose. Micronutrient requirement is very, very low. So when you just can walk around the lake, dosing it in various locations, or you can take a boat and spray it all over the lake, or you can set up a drip irrigation system and drip it into the lake slowly. So anyway, it's convenient for the user.
Okay.
Can be used. Only requirement that it should dose regularly, at least once a week. The gap between 2 doses should not be more than 1 week. Because typically diatoms have got a 1 week growth cycle. Once you dose, they grow for 1 week and they start declining. So before that, you again dose and you can keep the diatom growth continuously. And sewage.
So every day you need to dose. Every day we need to dose.
No, in still water you can dose once a week.
Okay, once a week you said. Okay, I just missed that. Yeah. So interesting. I mean, if I have a lake, maybe it will be a good idea to maybe we can try using that new algae into the lake, and it has got all certifications, right? It will not be a harmful product for other fishes or other nearby vegetation or people. Maybe kids are playing around, so it's completely green, isn't that?
Yeah, it's certified to be non-toxic. It's fit for consumption because it's being digested by the diatoms, and it's also used on crops. In fact, for like diatom metabolism and terrestrial plant metabolism, there are similarities. So it can be sprayed on the leaves of any crop, and that's beneficial to them, grass or trees, plants. In fact, there's another version of new algae is called foliar spray that is used in agriculture. So the observed itself, in fact, it may be even fit for human consumption. We've not yet tested it officially, but we know that it's a micronutrient tonic. So the micronutrients in new algae are the same micronutrients that are sold in fertilizer shops for use in agriculture. There's nothing different from that. The use of nanosilica is the only new feature. So nanosilica was invented in 1950s. It is used in many products like cosmetics and other products. So certified for human contact use. So it is not harmful for human beings at all. And the new algae has been used for 20 years. There's absolutely not a single case of any problem being reported anywhere. It is very safe for fish. So there's no problem in that. And the dosage is very small. It's 1 liter in 1 hectare. So it's 10 million liters.
Yes.
So in the case of sewage, it is 1 liter in 2 million liters of sewage.
It's huge. So, I mean, it's like nothing. 1 liter in 1 million liter is like nothing.
Nothing, that's it.
Yes.
So hardly, I mean, there's sewage. I mean, you cannot spoil it for that. And it's fully consumed by diatoms. So there's no problem. Now, why diatoms can be used for sewage treatment is that if you grow diatoms, you consume the nitrogen, phosphorus in the sewage to produce the oxygen required. And the treated sewage with new algae and diatoms can flow out into any lake or river. Because the water has to keep flowing, it can never stand still. So the treated sewage goes into a lake or river. So if you grow cyanobacteria, you cannot release it into a lake or river. So you have to harvest it. The cost of harvesting algae is very high. Whereas in the case of diatoms, you can just release it into the lakes and rivers. and the fish in the lakes and rivers will consume it, because the tanks in STP will not have fish, but the water into which the natural water body into which the treated sewage is released, that will have fish in it. So they will consume it. So it is being put to use there. And if we design the system well, the production of fish may be so good, it will pay for the cost of the treatment. So you can actually make a profit out of sewage. So today, sewage treatment is a cost. If you
Yes.
can grow using
It's a
sewage,
cost.
you will earn money with that. Like farmers use cow dung as a manure, but when sewage is there, you can't use human sewage as manure. But you
Yes.
can use sewage to grow fish if you have a properly designed system. Because sewage itself cannot be directly used. You have first treat it partly and then grow zooplankton and fish, and that can be used.
Nice, 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 nice.
So the economics
So-
are quite good. For 1 liter of new algae,
What
you
it
can grow
costs? What it will cost? I mean, say if I want to clean a 1 hectare lake. So for basically for how many days I will have to apply this solution? Once a week?
that depends on the sewage inflow into the lake. Some lakes there is a lot of sewage inflow. Some lakes there is a very little inflow. So it depends. If there's a regular inflow, then you have to continuously dose it, because it's like you're treating the sewage inside in the lake. If there's no
Say
daily
once a
inflow of
week?
sewage,
Yes.
you can treat once a week for 1 to 3 months. Once all the NNP in the lake is consumed, then you can reduce the dosage. First you dose 1 liter per hectare, then maybe half liter, and so on, and then maintenance dose may be much lower.
Okay. So what it will cost? I mean, say 1 year for to maintain one lake and clean it, how much you think will be the cost?
So the initial cost would be at least 10,000 rupees per liter of new algae
Per
use.
liter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So about 10,000 rupees per hectare per week.
Per week.
With
So
the
it means like
initial cost.
40,000 a month if I say 1 hectare ka lake. And so it's like 5 lakhs of consumable in a year.
Right.
Okay.
And there's no need for any capital. There's no capex. Then you no need to install any, build anything or install any machinery. At the most, you need a few sprayer, maybe a boat for about 1 or 2 hours in a week, and that sort of thing.
Okay. So do you
And once
need aeration also? So
No, because the oxygen from diatoms is a substitute for the air from the aerators.
Okay.
So aerators
Okay.
can be split off. So in the sewage treatment plant, that is the advantage. The
Okay.
oxygen production from diatoms is can substitute the electric aerators. So saving in electricity cost and the cost of the growing diatoms should be compared. And cost of growing diatoms should be comparable or even lower. In fact. So first
Okay.
benefit is that the electricity consumption goes down.
Okay. Okay.
So as a result, carbon emissions go down. So when you are consuming electricity generates CO2 emissions with the power plants.
Yes. Yes.
So
So it is actually helping in the many things. It is also reducing the carbon emissions.
carbon emissions and
Using more
that
oxygen as well.
will be carbon dioxide.
Yes.
In fact,
Yes.
so both ways it is beneficial. On the one side, it is reducing CO2 emissions. Other side, it is consuming carbon, converting it into organic carbon and ultimately fish biomass. So you are growing food. So it's carbon positive.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it's
Very,
very
very interesting. So I see that the solutions are available. Only thing is that there should be some awareness. If I see a lake around nearby my society, so if I don't know the solution, because see what happens in the general public, they feel that there should be a JCB which is going to come and clean our lake. It will be scattering from the lake, putting out the bad things out, and that is only the way to do it. Or there may be some big contracts which will be given. Then they will be putting that to work, and only that is the way which is possible. People really don't know that if we can use a natural solution like this, even this can be helpful to clean their lakes. I think 4 or 5 hectares of lake, if I say a very large lake, so we are like looking at some 20-25 lakhs of yearly consumption, yearly cost, which is like nothing, I say. I mean, if we can actually clean our surroundings and make it hygienic. I mean, many places I see that people go for a morning walk and the lake in between is like very bad. It smells. There are a lot of mosquitoes there. A lot of biological things are floating around. So if 25 lakhs, if some TSR can even support such kind of products, I feel we can do very well on our water usage and water security side.
Right.
Yes. So Yes, yeah, sir. Closing statements by you. What is the future of this technology, and what you will suggest? What should be the next thing which you would like that we should be doing with the diatoms for the benefit of the society?
Well, the atoms are extremely beneficial. So they could ultimately be a good source of biofuel. So first benefit is that the fish production will increase. So that is, economically, it's good. In fact, fish are declining all over the world because of overfishing. So nobody is making
Yes.
any effort to grow fish in the oceans or in lakes. They're only growing them in aquaculture ponds in the contained environment. So we're using diatoms. You can grow them in the open lakes and the oceans. And diatoms are a good source of many omega-3 fatty acids, nutraceuticals, and fucoxanthin. So the diatoms are brown in color, not green. There's one of the fundamental differences with diatoms and other algae. So apparently in water, brown color chlorophyll is superior to green chlorophyll. So the idea that chlorophyll can be brown is also a new concept. Very few people understand this. So that is one of the reasons why people are not aware of react natively to diatoms. So you never see a lake that is brown with diatom bloom. So when the diatoms grow, they're consumed by the fish. So you never see them. You see the green color algae. So they're more used to that. So you have to get over this, some sort of a learning process to educate people about diatoms. So you need support for that. Yeah. Thank you very much for giving a platform to.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving us time and sharing your knowledge, experience, and also a new technology. I am sure that this podcast will help many people to explore this solution. Even they can suggest this solution to the local authorities, because finally we want our rivers to be clean. That is the major motto here. And with that, I want to request all users to kindly like, share, and subscribe this channel, because the reason is that I would like this such kind of interesting technologies which are good for the society to reach many people as far as possible. So, and this also gives the encouragement to invite more and more such people like Bhaskar sir and share very interesting technologies with us. So thank you very much, sir, once again. And let's meet again on discussing on some new topic. And I will be waiting for that day. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to continuing that conversation.